Hello, it's Darren from Grills Plants here in Cornwall in the UK. Today I'm videoing this on the 18th of January. So here in the UK in Cornwall, it's very much we're in winter. Winter is a great time to be planting bare root fruit trees. So today I'm going to make a video, firstly this one here now, which is all about planting a damson tree, and then I'll do another one later about a cider apple tree which I'm planting. So let's crack on. So I've dug a hole. As you can see, if I go above the hole, you can see almost that this hole is quite square. This is what they recommend for fruit trees, not a round hole but a square hole. Also in the bottom of the hole you can see that the earth is quite loose, and that's what you need as well. And then we're going to put some feed in there as well. You can just about see here, this is the damson tree which I've got. It's what they call a maiden. So the term maiden means it's a 1-year-old tree, which basically means that this tree is probably not going to fruit at least for another 2 to 3 years. It's just the way it is. So why I always go with bare root fruit trees when I plant them is because, in all honesty, you get a better choice. This one that we're planting today is called Merryweather damson. So Merryweather damson, and this is on a St Julian A rootstock, which is about sort of semi-vigorous growth on a St Julian A. That's what that St Julian A means, semi-vigorous. So it'll fruit in September. It's self-fertile, this one. We always buy a lot of our apple trees and fruit trees from a company called Adams Apples in Dulford near Columpton in Devon. Highly recommend Adams Apples. You get a very good choice, and Tom, who runs Adams Apples, he's very knowledgeable. So if you're looking for a fruit tree and you're not sure, you know your requirements, you know what you want the fruit tree to give you, but you obviously the conditions of where you live, he can recommend trees, and he's very, very knowledgeable. So this one, as you can see, it's nice and tall. Let's have a look at the root. So this is what we call bare root. So he's been grown in a field, dug up a few days ago. So this here is what they call the root stock. So the bottom part of a fruit tree, this part here from root all the way up to that knobbly bit there, is what they call the root stock. So that would have been a different tree, and then what happens is that what they call grafting. They graft the top section onto this root stock. So whatever tree was growing on the bottom here, going up to the top, they cut off, and then often they do what they call a saddle graft. And the saddle graft, then they graft it on, and then you get the actual type of fruit on the top, which this one is obviously Merryweather. So let's pop that one down a minute. So we're going to post it when we put it in as well. So this is just a piece of normal 2x1, which I've cut straight that end, and then I've put obviously a point in it on the other end. So we're going to ram that into the ground, and then we're going to tie it in with a special plasticky coated wire. So obviously, it's not going to put its roots down instantly, so we want something to support it with the winds over the winter for the next couple of years. In a couple of years time, that post can come out, the tree will be settled. So this is coarse sand. Because obviously we're in Cornwall and we're what we call heavy clay soil, I'm going to add some coarse sand into the soil that goes back into the hole to sort of aid drainage. If you're on sand soil or anything else, you haven't got to worry about this, but for me, I'm just going to add that little extra bit of drainage. So this is going to be mixed into the soil, which is going back into the hole. I'm just going to mix that before I put it back in the hole, so it's got a consistency of being even with the sand through it. Like I said, you don't have to do this if you're not on heavy clay soil, but I mean, for me, I'm just thinking that damson trees don't like sitting in water. We're Cornwall, we get wet winters, and we're on heavy clay soil, which is cloggy soil. So let's get rid of the clayiness yeah, so that's one bit done. Do the rest. Tree into the hole, and now I'm going to add some feed. So this is a feed which is called Q4. You don't have to use Q4. Q4 you'd have to buy, you know, almost like £15 worth at a time for a small bag. So I would suggest bloodfish and bone is more than adequate. It's just going to give that little bit of feed to the roots to get going. So what I do is I'm going to place that on there, take it over to the hole, and then I'm just going to sprinkle that all the way around the roots, and that's probably about enough. That's fine. Before I forget, a Merryweather damson. So it's considered to be almost like a cross between a damson and a plum. So it's bigger than a normal damson, and a damson's associated with being a little bit tart, a little bit sharp in flavour. Damsons tend to be used for things like making jam, gin, wine, crumble, that kind of thing. But these Merryweathers, because they're slightly bigger, they're almost a cross, we believe, of a plum and a damson. If you let them get really ripe on the tree, they are edible. They're quite sweet. Other ones which I would recommend would be Shropshire, and that would be another good damson to look at, but that's almost like what you call a pure damson, and that is going to be sharp. So you're going to backfill the hole now with this sandy solution of compost. What we're going to do is we're going to start firming it down as we go as well. So whilst I'm doing this, I'll just tell you also about, you know, fruit trees in general. What my take on it is, and that is, whatever you do, don't go to a supermarket or don't go to a retailer and buy an apple tree in a pot for $7.99. They're a load of crap, in my opinion. I'll tell you why. It's because it'll be John O'Golds, it'll be Granny Smiths, it'll be all the apples which really are only any good for commercial growing, using a lot of pesticides and chemicals. You want to try and get a fruit tree which has got natural disease resistance, and you'll only get that from people like Adam's Apples. Blackmore is another good apple orchard, fruit orchard. So that's what I would say. Get advice from a proper fruit nursery, and avoid the supermarket apple trees, because they are a load of rubbish. They really are. Some of the varieties that we've got here, like, say, I'll just give you an example. Laxton's Epicure is a very old Bedfordshire apple, very disease resistant. Don't need to spray it with anything, any chemicals whatsoever. It's a good cropper and it's a good grower. You're guaranteed to get a good crop of apples off it every single year, and you won't get that from a John O'Gold or Braeburn or Granny Smith or whatever else they're trying to sell you in a supermarket. So we're in. Now I just got to post it. So let's get me post. This is what I call my rammer. So I use one of these to pilot hole, and I'm going to go across the tree, and I'm going to go like quite close to the tree there, because I want to tie it in, but I want to almost pilot hole there, and I'm just going to keep bringing that in and out, ramming it, so I've got a decent hole to begin with to get my post in. This is not essential if you've not got one. Just hammer it in your post, and what I'd say with your post is put a little odd piece of wood on the top of your post if you can't pilot hole like I am, because that'll stop your wood from blistering. Apologise, I'm puffing and panting today. I've been quite unwell for a week or so, so this I'm finding a bit difficult today. So there's my pilot hole. As you can see, I'm going to put my posts in at an angle. Yeah, you can put your posts in straight, it doesn't really matter, but this is the way I like to do it. So I put it in so far with my hand, and then I'm going to take a lump hammer. soil around it. He ain't going anywhere. And then we're going to tie the tree in from there over to here. This is what we use, it's called soft tie. It's bendy and you can tie knots in it really easy. So yeah, soft tie. So let me show you how I've tied it in. So I do what they call a figure of 8. The other thing I forgot to mention is that this is the grafting point, and the grafting point must be above the soil. If you actually bury this rootstock, it's going to try and regrow to the original plant which was on this rootstock. So make sure it's above ground. So yeah, going back, figure of 8. Yeah, nice and loose, but you know, taut enough. And I don't know, this is very bendy stuff, and you can tie it and twist it, and it's a fantastic thing to have. So one damson tree in, I've got another tree to plant yet. So I planted 2 of these today, and you know, as I said earlier, 2 to 3 years he'll start fruiting. By the time we reach probably year 7, year 8, he'll be fruiting very well. So it's a long-term thing. Don't just think, you know, you're going to plant it. And also what I've done here is ensure that it's far enough away from the wall, and then we can actually ensure that if you plant it against the wall, you know, it's only going to grow one way. This branch here, eventually with this one, is we'll train this one over here. I'll make a video on training trees in spring. It's probably up if you're watching this after spring. So have a look at our training tree, fruit tree video that we made. We will be in spring. So thanks for watching. I know it's been a lot winded. It's like just over 12 minutes long, this video, but I wanted to be as thorough as possible, because buying fruit trees the correct way is important to us, and planting them in the correct way is important to us as well. So thanks for watching. Like, comment, I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. What I'd say is there's a guy on the YouTube also called Stephen Hayes. Look him up if you're looking at anything to do with fruit trees, cider trees, apple orchard management, pruning, grafting, best varieties to buy. Stephen Hayes, it's a fantastic channel. Stephen doesn't make videos anymore because he's a bit older now, shall we say, but he's a very knowledgeable gentleman. I learned so much from Stephen about fruit trees. So thanks for watching. Take care.